Hey brother, let's talk about a pattern that's echoed through the lives of men for generations, the ex who circles back. You know the one. She ghosted you without warning. She said she needed space or had to find herself. Maybe she chose another guy, convinced herself she could do better, or just walked away when you were still holding on. And then, silence. Weeks go by, then months, maybe even years, and suddenly she's back, liking your stories, sliding into your DMs, dropping casual, how have you been, messages like nothing ever happened. It throws you off, it stirs up old feelings. Part of you feels validated, the other part confused. Why now? Why her? Here's the truth most men never get told. Her return isn't random, it's not spontaneous, it's a pattern, and once you understand it, you stop being surprised. You start standing taller. Most women don't leave all at once. They don't just wake up one day and decide it's over. They leave in stages, emotionally before they leave physically. That's the part that stings. While you were still committed, still showing up, still believing things were fine, she was quietly detaching. She was drifting in the background, subtly withdrawing, testing the waters of independence, rehearsing your breakup in her mind long before she said the words out loud. So when she finally walked out that door, cold, distant, unreadable, you were caught off guard. But she wasn't. She had been emotionally preparing for that moment for weeks, maybe even longer. That's why she didn't cry. That's why she didn't look back. She had already grieved the relationship behind your back. But here's what she didn't prepare for: your silence. See, most women expect men to chase. They expect tears, apologies, late night texts, that desperate energy of a man who's lost his emotional anchor. They're used to seeing men fall apart, beg for closure, plead for one more chance, and when you don't, when you fall off the radar completely, when you vanish into your purpose, when you level up, it shocks her system. She was ready to mourn the man you were, but she never imagined missing the man you'd become in her absence. That's the shift. That's the trigger. That's why she comes back. Not because she suddenly realized your worth, but because she miscalculated who you'd turn into without her. Understand this. Women are emotionally intuitive. They're hardwired to pick up on energy, on presence, on emotional shifts. They sense things most men don't even express. And when a man truly detaches, not pretends, not fakes confidence, but genuinely lets go, she feels that rupture in her core. And it's not about you dating someone new or posting thirst traps to prove you're over her. That's noise, that's surface level. What really gets under her skin is your stillness, your calm, your refusal to chase, your evolution, your peace. That's the kind of transformation she didn't expect, and it messes with her inner narrative, because deep down, she thought you'd always be there, always waiting, always hoping. That certainty gave her the confidence to leave, but now that certainty is gone. That invisible thread she assumed would always connect you, you cut it, not out of bitterness, but out of growth. And something primal wakes up in her. That emotional control she thought she had, it slips. Her confidence in her decision, it wavers, because now the power dynamic has shifted. Now you're the one who's whole without her, and that discomfort, that loss of control is what pulls her back in. Quick break, close your eyes for a second. Picture her, the girl you've always wanted. Feel what it would be like to actually have her. Now open your eyes. Because here's the truth, right now, you're invisible to her. You're getting outcompeted by guys with more money, better looks, higher status, and stronger game. You're playing a rigged game, and you're losing. But I've spent the last 35 years mastering this, studying, testing, and finally finding the secrets to get the girls I always wanted. You want to stop getting ignored? You want her chasing you? Then you need to wake up and act. Click the link in the comments if you are truly committed and take the first step toward becoming that guy. Few spots left. Be fast or miss out your last chance to make her yours. Let's get back to it. Let's go deeper. Here's a truth most people avoid. Breakups don't dissolve the bond, they just apply pressure to it. And pressure doesn't lie. It exposes, it reveals, it shows you what's real and what was just illusion. Some women, when that pressure hits, truly realize they're ready to move on. They grieve, they grow, they keep walking, and that's fair. But Others start to see things for what they really were. They didn't leave because you were the wrong man. They left because they believed the hype. They chased the feeling. They thought they could trade emotional depth for temporary excitement. They mistook a moment of dissatisfaction for a permanent truth. And when that dopamine fades, when the grass turns out to be fake turf, guess what creeps in? Doubt, nostalgia, regret, and suddenly all roads lead right back to you. But here's the catch. It's not your messages that pull her back. It's not the poems, the I miss you texts, or the late night confessions. No, what draws her in is the thing she least expected. Your silence, your absence, your self-possession, the way you absorbed the pain and didn't fall to pieces. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men fold. They spiral, they try to barter their way back into love, they perform, they prove, they chase. But the man who doesn't, the man who walks away with calm, quiet strength, he becomes unforgettable. Not because he begged her to remember him, but because he didn't have to. He didn't fall into bitterness. He didn't turn cold and vindictive. He didn't play the victim. He kept his composure. He stayed grounded, and that contrast sticks in her mind. See, women remember how you made them feel, not just in the highs, but in the ending. If you ended things angry, petty, desperate, she associates that energy with your identity. But if you handled the storm with grace, with maturity, with quiet dignity, that's a narrative shift. That creates emotional friction. It plants questions that echo long after you're gone. Why didn't he chase me? Why was he so calm? Why does he look better, happier, more at peace without me? Those aren't just questions, they're emotional hooks, and the longer they go unanswered, the more her curiosity becomes longing. Her longing turns into regret, and eventually, that regret drives her to circle back. But this is where most men fall. They mistake her return for redemption. They think her reappearance means she finally understands their worth, but that's not always the case. Sometimes she's not coming back for you. She's coming back for the feeling she lost when she left you. She's not returning because she's grown. She's returning because your silence disrupted her emotional control. Your absence created a vacuum she didn't expect. That's not the same as love. That's not the same as change. So don't get it twisted. Just because she comes back doesn't mean she deserves to. Growth means learning to discern. Can you tell the difference between a woman who wants you and one who just wants the comfort of your presence back? Can you resist the temptation to let her back in just because it feels validating in the moment? This is the test, not of your feelings, but of your standards, because you've evolved now. You've done the inner work. You've reclaimed your peace, and the real power is knowing that not every return deserves a reunion. This is where your masculine frame is truly tested, not in the moments of heartbreak, but in the aftermath, in the silence, in the stillness. When she circles back, knocking on the door she once slammed, will you rush to open it? Or will you pause, observe, evaluate? Will you remember who walked away and why? Will you let her return simply because she wants to? Or will you demand something higher, accountability, alignment, growth? Because here's the truth. The high-value man doesn't flinch when the past returns. He doesn't bend to impulse or nostalgia. He doesn't confuse emotional history with future potential. He doesn't open the door just because someone's knocking. He asks, why now? He inspects the pattern. He listens with discernment. He watches her behavior, not her words. He doesn't let I miss you erase the chaos she caused. He doesn't let regret masquerade as love, because most men, they crumble at the first sign of softness. They see the tears, the texts, the memory-laced apologies and think, maybe it was real. But the man who has done the inner work, he knows better. He understands that not every return is a redemption arc. Here's what most women don't expect: your absence, your silence, your refusal to chase. They're used to men folding, explaining, begging, but when you don't, when you vanish from the emotional chessboard, you become a memory she can't shake. You become a ghost, not of love lost, but of the man she couldn't control. And that's rare. That kind of masculine stillness, grounded, centered, unbothered, is rare, and rare is irresistible. When your ex begins to feel that you're no longer emotionally or energetically available, not playing the game, not leaving the door open, It doesn't just shake her, it disorients her. Because deep down, she thought she had time to explore, time to test other options, time to wander and still return to your orbit like it was nothing. But when she senses you've moved on, not out of spite but out of self-respect, it breaks the script. It ruins the narrative she had in her mind, that you'd always be there, waiting. That rupture in her emotional story. That's the hook. That's the gravitational pull. But understand this, it's not just about missing you. It's about realizing she never truly understood the man you were becoming. Because after a breakup, if you've been building in silence, evolving, becoming more grounded, your value increases, not just to her, but in the world. And women don't just assess men based on who they are in the moment. They assess them in contrast to who they used to be. And when she sees that you didn't just move on, you leveled up, that thought begins to haunt her. Did I leave too soon? Did I misjudge him? Did I throw away something I didn't understand? That internal doubt, that's the seed of regret. And regret grows fastest in silence. No closure, no contact, no cracks in your frame, just distance, just mystery, just elevation. And that silence, that's your power. Not to punish her, not to manipulate, but to protect your peace. To show yourself and the world that you don't chase closure. You create clarity, and clarity always attracts more than chaos ever could. A lot of women don't come back because they've had some deep transformational revelation. They don't return because they're ready to build something real. They come back because they miss the access to your energy, your presence, your emotional stability. They miss being on the receiving end of your unconditional love, your loyalty, your consistency. Not necessarily because they want to reciprocate it, but because they can't find it elsewhere. They miss the way you made them feel, safe, adored, prioritized, often without having to fully earn it. And when the world outside doesn't meet those standards, when the attention fades, when reality hits, they go back to what felt stable. That's when the late night texts show up, the random "how have you been" messages, the sudden follows and likes on social media. But most men never pause to ask the real question, why now? Not, what should I say? Or, is this the moment I've been waiting for? But, what's actually changed? Because if she hasn't evolved, if you haven't healed, if the foundation is the same, the ending will be too. Just more painful, because now you're repeating what you already know doesn't work. The return of an ex is often not a reward, it's a test. It's the universe seeing if you're still a slave to your old patterns, still willing to accept breadcrumbs just because they're familiar. True masculine strength isn't about punishing her or ignoring her out of spite. It's about standing in calm, firm peace. The kind of peace that doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't fold. The kind that says, I don't need your apology, and I don't need your chaos either. And that kind of stillness, real emotional control, is rare. Most men spiral when she reappears. They get excited, hopeful, desperate to make it work this time, but you have to be different. You have to look past the surface and see clearly. Is she coming back because she wants to grow with you, or because she's uncomfortable without you? Does she want the man you've become, or does she just miss the man who made her feel special? You've got to discern, is this love or is this loneliness? Is she chasing healing or is she just running from herself? Missing you is not the same as choosing you. Regret is not the same as readiness, and emotional confusion is not a foundation for reconnection. Sometimes her return is just nostalgia misread as clarity, and it's your job to know the difference. Because if you can stand firm in that moment, grounded in your growth, clear on your worth, you won't just avoid another heartbreak, you'll prove to yourself that the lesson stuck, and that's when you don't just get over her, you outgrow her. The truth is, you were always the one with the power, you just forgot. Somewhere along the way, you confused love with self-sacrifice. You started believing that to be a good man, to love fully, you had to give everything, your time, your energy, your identity. You thought that being vulnerable meant surrendering your standards, but strength and love were never meant to be enemies. True power is being able to love someone deeply and still honor your boundaries. It's being able to care, to feel, to invest, and still walk away when your peace is at stake. And the moment you realize that, The moment you stop begging to be chosen and start choosing yourself is the moment you become the man she cannot forget. So if she comes back, let her. Let her speak. Let her apologize. Let her explain. But you don't bend. You don't rush. You don't slip back into old patterns just because she misses what you gave. You stay still. You observe. You watch her actions, not her words. You listen not for promises, but for accountability. You look for growth, for humility, for true self-awareness. And if you don't see it, you don't get bitter. You don't attack. You move on with grace, with dignity, with clarity, because the highest form of masculinity isn't dominance, it isn't ego, it's calm discernment. It's the ability to stand in front of the very thing that once broke you and say, no more, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You weren't abandoned, you were freed. That breakup didn't destroy you, it revealed you. It gave you a mirror, a chance to confront your wounds, to rebuild your standards, to rediscover your worth. And now that you've done that work, now that you've stepped into who you were always meant to be, you don't beg for access, you grant it. You decide who gets your energy, who gets your time, who gets your heart. So if she returns, it's not about revenge. It's not about proving a point. It's about reverence for yourself. It's about honoring the journey you took to become this version of you. And that means asking the hard question, do I respect myself enough to say no to what's familiar, to what's easy, and yes to what's aligned? That's the power you always had. Now it's time to use it. So yeah, your ex might come back. She might text you out of nowhere, call just to check in, or show up with that familiar look in her eyes, the one that used to disarm you. But this time, you're not the same man. This time, you've seen behind the curtain. You've studied the cycle. You've felt the sting and come out stronger. Now, you don't meet her return with bitterness or desperation. You meet it with presence. You're grounded. You're calm. You're unmoved. Because her return isn't your validation. Your evolution is. But let's take it even deeper. A lot of women move through life carrying something I call emotional insurance. They rarely walk away with both feet out the door. Even when they leave a little thread connected, a backup tether in case their next move doesn't land. They keep a picture of you up just a little longer than necessary. They don't block you, they keep tabs. And whether consciously or not, they're leaving a door cracked open, not necessarily for love, but for certainty. And when you, the man they once left behind, begin to radiate focus, strength, and grounded energy, that's when the boomerang effect hits. She might not even miss you specifically. She misses what you represent. Calm, safety, stability. You were the voice that didn't yell, the presence that didn't waver, the foundation she once took for granted. And when life outside your presence shakes her, when the new guy disappoints, when the promises of a better option fall flat, her mind doesn't just recall you, it elevates you. Suddenly, you become more than a memory, you become a symbol. But here's the truth, when she comes back, she's not returning to the man you are now. She's reaching for the version of you frozen in her mind. That's where your clarity gets tested again, because you've grown, you've changed, you've outpaced the old dynamic. So now you have to ask, is she really seeing you, or is she chasing comfort? If she's in love with the past version of you, then her return isn't a reunion, it's a rescue mission. And that's no longer your job. Don't romanticize the return. Don't confuse curiosity with commitment. I know it feels powerful, she walked away and now she wants back in, but you have to separate validation from reality. Just because she misses you doesn't mean she's learned. Just because she wants you doesn't mean she's ready for what you've become. This is the moment your logic must speak louder than your longing. You need to listen to what's not said, observe what's not posted, watch the patterns, not the apologies, because if you fall back into the same emotional loop, the outcome won't be healing, it'll be repetition. And remember this above all, it's not love if it costs you your peace. You're not the man who was left behind anymore. You're the man who rose from it, and that's why she's drawn to you now. But the true strength of masculinity isn't becoming someone she regrets losing. It's knowing you don't need her to feel whole ever again. It's about being able to look her in the eyes, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with calm certainty and say, I'm not mad, I'm not hurt, but I'm not the same man anymore. That line, right there, is your boundary. That's the moment you draw the invisible line between who you were and who you've become. And don't be surprised if she doesn't know how to handle that, because growth, real growth, intimidates those who stayed stagnant. Your silence now feels heavy, your stillness feels like distance, but it's not coldness, it's clarity. She's not meeting the man she left. She's standing in front of the man she unknowingly awakened. And just because she helped spark that transformation doesn't mean she's entitled to experience it. Sometimes a person's role in your life is to be the storm that shakes you loose from your old self, not the shelter you run back to. Now, you get to choose your own weather. And here's the real twist. Her return might not even be about you. It might be her repeating a cycle, clinging to the comfort she once felt, hoping the past still fits like it used to. But it doesn't, because you've evolved. You've done the work. You've cut the wires she used to pull. The buttons she used to push don't even respond anymore. The emotional blueprint she memorized has changed. You're no longer stuck in her loop. You've outgrown the entire storyline. So when she comes back, don't chase validation. Chase truth. Has she grown? Has she reflected? Can she sit in a conversation without shifting blame, without performing, without wrapping manipulation in emotion? If not, then understand. This isn't a return, it's a rerun. And you've seen how this episode ends. Growth means you change the channel. You don't loop back out of loneliness or nostalgia. Sometimes her coming back is the closure you never got. Not because she says the perfect thing, but because when you hear her voice again, you no longer ache. You no longer reach. You no longer place your future in her hands. That moment, that's liberation. That's when you realize the breakup didn't shatter you, it shaped you. And her return isn't about reconciliation, it's confirmation. You were always enough, even when she couldn't see it. So let her call, let her come back, let her say whatever she needs to say. But this time, let you be the one who chooses. Not from pain, not from ego, but from clarity, from peace, from power. Because the man who understands why she's back is the man who never again gets pulled into the loop of half-healed love. Stand firm, stand tall, let her see the man she couldn't break. And if she can't match your new energy, wish her peace, close the chapter and walk forward. Because now, brother, you are the one in control. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. If this message spoke to you or gave you something to think about, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new drop. I've got more real talk, more growth, and more power coming your way. So stay locked in. And if you're going through something right now, just remember, your silence can say more than 1,000 words ever could. Take care of yourself, keep rising, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.